Let's now dive into a comprehensive understanding of the heart, its components, and its role in the cardiovascular system, with a detailed focus on how these processes support athletic performance. The heart is a muscular organ that operates as two interconnected but separate pumps. The right side of the heart is responsible for pumping the oxygenated blood to the lungs, while the left side pumps oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. Each side of the heart consists of two chambers, an atrium and a ventricle. Right atrium and ventricle. The oxygenated blood flows from the body into the right atrium through the superior and inferior vena cava. From there, it enters the right ventricle, which pumps the blood to the lungs via the pulmonary arteries for oxygenation. Left atrium and ventricle. Oxygen-rich blood returns to the left atrium from the lungs through the pulmonary veins. It then flows into the left ventricle, which pumps it out through the aorta to deliver oxygen and nutrients to the entire body. These two sides of the heart work together, ensuring that oxygen-poor blood is constantly being cycled to the lungs to receive oxygen, while oxygen-rich blood is pumped out to fuel the body's muscles and organs. This dual pump system is essential for supporting both low and high-intensity physical activities. The heart's efficiency is maintained by a set of 4 valves that ensure unidirectional blood flow. There are 2 atrioventricular AV valves and 2 semilunar valves. Tricuspid valve located between the right atrium and right ventricle. This valve prevents blood from flowing backward into the atrium when the right ventricle contracts. Mitral valve, also called the bicuspid valve. This valve functions similarly on the left side, preventing backflow from the left ventricle into the left atrium. Pulmonary valve. This semilunar valve prevents backflow from the pulmonary artery into the right ventricle. Aortic valve. This semilunar valve prevents blood from flowing backward into the left ventricle from the aorta. All these valves open and close passively depending on pressure differences between the heart chambers. When a forward pressure gradient exists, blood pushes forward and the valves open. When there is a backward pressure, they shut tightly to prevent any backflow, ensuring blood moves in only one direction, essential for maintaining efficient circulation. The mechanical actions of the heart, specifically the contractions of its chambers, are tightly controlled by its electrical conduction system. This system initiates and propagates electrical impulses to coordinate the heart's pumping action. The heart's pacemaker, or the sinoatrial SA node, located in the right atrium, is where the rhythmic electrical impulses are first generated. These impulses spread across the atria, causing them to contract and push blood into the ventricles. The electrical signal then reaches the atrioventricular AV node, which introduces a brief delay before the signal is passed down to the ventricles. This delay is critical, allowing the ventricles time to fill with blood before they contract. And the signal continues down the AV bundle, also called the bundle of His, and splits into the left and right bundle branches, which lead to the ventricles. Finally, the signal reaches the Purkinje fibers, which rapidly distribute the electrical impulses throughout the ventricles, causing them to contract nearly simultaneously. The heart's rhythmic contractions, controlled by this electrical system, are what keeps blood pumping efficiently throughout the body. In athletes, these mechanisms adapt with training. For instance, regular aerobic exercise can enhance the heart stroke volume, amount of blood pumped per beat, and improve the efficiency of the electrical conduction system, leading to a lower resting heart rate, a common adaptation seen in endurance athletes. The arterial system and venous system form a closed-loop circulatory network, transporting blood throughout the body. Arteries carry oxygenated blood away from the heart under high pressure. These vessels have thick muscular walls to withstand the force of the heart's contractions. The arterioles of orthos, smaller branches of arteries, act as control vessels regulating blood flow into the capillaries. Capillaries are the smallest blood vessels and facilitate the exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste between the blood and body tissues. Their thin walls allow for efficient diffusion of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other molecules. Veins transport deoxygenated blood back to the heart. Unlike arteries, veins operate under low pressure and have thinner walls. They contain one-way valves to prevent blood from flowing backward, especially in the lower extremities where gravity poses a challenge to upward blood flow. The skeletal muscle pump assists with this process. As muscles contract, they compress the veins, helping to push blood back toward the heart. This is especially important in athletes. After exercise, continuing to move can prevent blood pooling in the legs, while prolonged sitting without movement can impede venous return. This is why post-exercise cool-downs often include walking or light activity. Blood serves as the transport medium for oxygen and nutrients, while also removing waste products like carbon dioxide. Hemoglobin, a protein in red blood cells, binds to oxygen in the lungs and carries it to tissues throughout the body. At the same time, hemoglobin also plays a key role in maintaining the body's acid-base balance by acting as a buffer, binding to hydrogen ions. Carbon dioxide is the major waste product generated by cellular metabolism, and its removal is crucial to maintaining pH levels. Red blood cells contain carbonic anhydrase, an enzyme that speeds up the conversion of carbon dioxide into a form that can be transported to the lungs for exhalation. The respiratory system and gas exchange. The primary role of the respiratory system is the exchange of gases, specifically oxygen and carbon dioxide. As air enters the lungs, it passes through the trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles, ultimately reaching the alveoli, tiny air sacs where gas exchange occurs. Oxygen diffuses across the alveolar membrane into the pulmonary capillaries, where it binds to hemoglobin in red blood cells. Simultaneously, carbon dioxide, which has been carried back from the body's tissues, diffuses out of the blood into the alveoli to be exhaled. This process of ventilation is supported by the movement of the diaphragm and the rib cage. During inspiration, the diaphragm contracts and moves downward, creating negative pressure in the chest cavity that draws air into the lungs. During expiration, the diaphragm relaxes and the elastic recoil of the lungs pushes air out. In athletes, the ability to effectively manage oxygen intake and carbon dioxide removal is essential for performance. During exercise, the demands on the respiratory system increase, requiring deeper and more frequent breaths to meet the body's oxygen needs. Additionally, resistance training or Valsalva maneuvers during heavy lifting place extra strain on the respiratory muscles, which can lead to adaptations that improve breathing efficiency over time.